Big news. Your soulmate is feeling deep joy right now because of something you did. My beloved child, something shifted quietly today, and your soulmate felt it before they could even explain why. A deep joy suddenly rose within them, not because the world around them changed, but because you did something they never expected from you. And here is the strange part, you may not even realize which moment caused it. Stay with this, because the obvious answer is not the real one. Your soulmate has been noticing something different in your energy lately. A quiet strength. A new way of carrying yourself. Perhaps you stopped chasing an answer that once consumed your thoughts. Perhaps you chose peace where you once would have reacted. Or maybe you simply began moving forward without needing anyone else to confirm that you were on the right path. Whatever it was, they noticed. And somewhere inside them came a thought they could not push away. Something about them has changed. But wait, because that realization was only the beginning. What brought your soulmate such deep joy was not one perfect sentence, one dramatic gesture, or one obvious sign. It was the realization that you are becoming stronger without becoming colder. You are learning without losing your heart. You are moving toward your future without allowing yesterday to control every decision. That surprised them. For a long time, they may have wondered what would happen when you finally recognized your own value. Would you become distant? Would everything between you feel different? Instead, something unexpected happened. Your growth made them feel hopeful. Stay a little longer, because there is one detail they have not admitted yet. They are beginning to imagine a future differently. Not as some distant fantasy. Not as something that exists only in perfect circumstances. They are starting to picture what could happen if two people stopped carrying old uncertainty into a new chapter. And somehow, what you did became the spark. Maybe it looked insignificant from your side. A boundary you quietly protected. A decision you finally made. A moment when you chose yourself without trying to prove anything to anyone. But from their perspective, it revealed something enormous. You are ready for a different version of your life. And that realization created the joy they are feeling now. What if this moment changes your entire path? Because while you were wondering whether anything was moving, something was already moving inside them. Their thoughts became clearer. Their uncertainty softened. And suddenly, the possibility of what comes next no longer felt impossible. Don't rush past this moment. There is another reason behind their happiness, and it goes deeper than your transformation. Your soulmate has realized that the thing you recently changed may have answered a question they had been silently carrying for much longer than you know. And when you discover what that question was, everything about their joy will make sense. Wait till the next moment. Because this is where the story begins to turn. Something they once questioned has suddenly become clear, and this is where your soulmate's joy begins to make sense. For longer than you might imagine, one quiet question had been following them: if the right moment finally arrives, will they still believe in what we could become? They never needed a dramatic answer. They were watching your choices. Your patience. Your ability to keep moving even when everything wasn't perfectly explained. And recently, something you did gave them the answer they had secretly hoped for. You showed them that your heart can grow without becoming closed. That realization changed their entire perspective. But don't skip what comes next, because there is a second layer to this. Your soulmate's happiness isn't simply about what you did, it's about what your action revealed about your future. They can sense that you are no longer waiting for life to happen to you. You are becoming intentional, more aware, more selective about where your energy belongs. And strangely, instead of making them feel left behind, it inspired them to become better too. Think about that. What if the change you made for yourself quietly became someone else's reason to change? That possibility has been moving through their thoughts. They are beginning to understand that meeting you at the next chapter may require them to arrive differently as well. More honest. More certain. More willing to communicate what they previously kept hidden. And there is the real surprise. Your soulmate may have spent time believing that happiness would arrive only after everything between you was perfectly understood. Now they are discovering something completely different. Sometimes joy arrives when you finally see that another person is becoming who they were always capable of becoming. That is what they see in you. Stay till the end of this thought, because the biggest clue is still ahead. There was a particular moment when they recognized your transformation. Something small happened, perhaps a change in the way you responded, the way you stopped forcing an outcome, or the way you chose calm confidence instead of seeking reassurance. From your perspective, it may have seemed ordinary. To them, it was anything but ordinary. It told them, "I'm not standing still anymore." And strangely, those invisible words gave them hope. If this message reminds you of someone or a chapter you've been quietly thinking about, you can share it with someone who might need the same perspective. Leave your thought in the comments, and subscribe if you want to continue exploring these deeper turning points together. Now come back to this moment, because something important is approaching. Your soulmate's deep joy has begun creating a decision. Not an impulsive decision. Not something built on temporary emotion. This feels different. They have started considering what they could finally do instead of endlessly wondering what might happen. And before you assume you know what that decision is, wait. Because it isn't simply about reaching out. It isn't simply about saying what they feel. The decision is connected to your next chapter, and something you recently did convince them that the timing may finally be changing. There is one thing they now want you to understand before that chapter opens. And when you hear it, you may finally understand why your smallest choice created their biggest feeling of joy. Here is the part no one could have predicted. Your soulmate's joy is beginning to turn into certainty. Until recently, they were standing between two possibilities, continuing to observe from a distance, or finally trusting what your transformation was showing them. Then you made that quiet choice, the one you probably didn't make for them at all, and suddenly their uncertainty began losing its power. Because they finally understood something. You were never asking them to rescue your future. You were building it yourself. And somehow, that made their feelings even stronger. Stay a little longer, because this changes the meaning of everything that came before. Your soulmate may have once believed they needed the perfect circumstances before anything meaningful could move forward. The perfect timing. The perfect words. A perfect sign that nothing could go wrong. But watching you grow has challenged that idea. You showed them that progress doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it happens quietly. One stronger decision. One healthier perspective. One moment where you stop asking, "Why hasn't everything happened yet?" and begin asking, "What can I become while I'm waiting?" That shift is what they noticed. And their joy came from realizing they might be witnessing the beginning of a completely different version of you. But there is more. Something huge is waiting inside this realization. Your soulmate is no longer only thinking about who you were when your connection first became meaningful. Their imagination has moved forward. They are picturing who you could both become months from now, years from now, after everything you are currently learning has shaped you into stronger, wiser versions of yourselves. Imagine two paths moving through different landscapes, apparently separate, yet gradually turning toward the same horizon. That is how this possibility feels to them now. And there is one particular thought that keeps returning. What if I'm watching the beginning of the chapter one once thought we had missed? Pause there. Because their happiness isn't coming from certainty about every detail of the future. No one can know every turn ahead. Their joy comes from possibility, from seeing that your story is still moving, and that something you did recently proved you are no longer allowing old doubts to write tomorrow for you. That gave them permission to reconsider their own doubts. Now their inner conversation is changing. Instead of wondering, "What if this never works?" they are beginning to wonder, "What if something beautiful becomes possible because we both finally understand what needed to change?" That question has awakened something. Not pressure. Not urgency. Courage. And before you go, hear this line carefully. Your soulmate's next step may not look dramatic from the outside. It could begin with something surprisingly simple. Greater openness, a different conversation, or a decision to stop hiding what genuinely matters to them. But the smallest doorway can lead into the largest chapter. And there is one final revelation behind their deep joy that you haven't heard yet. Because the thing you did didn't merely change how they see you. It changed how they see themselves. And once you understand what they have now decided to become because of that realization, you'll understand why this moment could be the true turning point. And now the hidden consequence of your choice is finally coming into view. Your soulmate has started asking themselves a completely different question. Not, "Will they choose me?" Not, "When will everything become clear?" But something far more personal. Am I becoming someone who can meet them where they are going? That question changed the atmosphere inside them. Because your growth became a mirror. When they saw you becoming calmer, more intentional, and less dependent on outside approval, they realized they could no longer remain exactly where they had been. Your progress quietly challenged them to examine their own patterns, their own hesitation, and the things they kept postponing. This is why their joy feels so deep. It carries admiration. It carries possibility. And most importantly, it carries a new sense of direction. Wait, there is one detail here you might miss. Your soulmate isn't joyful because you became perfect. They are joyful because you became real. You stopped needing every answer before taking the next step. You started trusting your ability to navigate uncertainty. And whether you noticed it or not, that created a completely different presence around you. They felt that difference. Now imagine the future from their perspective. They see you walking toward opportunities you once questioned whether you deserved. They see your confidence becoming quieter but stronger. They see a version of you who doesn't have to chase what belongs in your life. And suddenly they are thinking, if they can evolve this much, maybe I can too. Stay with that sentence. Because something extraordinary happens when inspiration replaces uncertainty. Your soulmate has begun considering changes of their own. Maybe it means communicating more openly. Maybe it means becoming clearer about what they truly want. Maybe it means finally releasing an old hesitation that kept them emotionally standing in the same place. Whatever form it takes, one truth remains. Something you did became evidence that change is possible. And that is why their happiness isn't fading after one emotional moment. It keeps returning. If this journey has made you think differently about your own growth, share it with someone who could use that reminder. And if you've been following these turning points, leave your perspective in the comments and subscribe so we can continue exploring what the next chapter might reveal. Now, listen closely. Because their deepest realization has nothing to do with chasing you. They understand that if two paths are meant to move closer, neither person should have to abandon their own growth to make it happen. That idea has brought them an unexpected peace. And perhaps that is the biggest transformation happening right now. They are no longer imagining a future where one person carries everything. They are imagining two people arriving stronger, clearer, and more aware than before. But before you decide that you understand the entire story, there is one final shift still hidden beneath their joy. Your soulmate has connected your recent choice to a memory, one specific moment from the past that suddenly means something completely different to them now. They once misunderstood that moment. Today, they see it clearly. And what they finally realized about you may explain why their next move could be unlike anything you expected. A completely new realization has entered their mind now, and it has nothing to do with coincidence. Your soulmate has started connecting the person you are becoming with something they sensed about you long ago. Back then, they couldn't explain it. They only felt that there was more inside you than what circumstances were allowing the world to see. Now, after witnessing the choice you recently made, they finally understand what that feeling was pointing toward. You were preparing for a chapter neither of you could clearly see yet. And that realization has filled them with an even deeper kind of joy. Stay here, because the next piece changes the direction of this story. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that what impressed them most was not the outcome of your decision. It was the courage behind it. You chose growth before receiving guarantees. You moved differently before anyone promised you a reward. You trusted yourself enough to take another step even while parts of the road remained unclear. That told them something powerful. Your future is no longer being shaped by your old uncertainty. And when they recognized that, they started looking at their own future differently too. For the first time in a while, they aren't mentally replaying everything that could have happened differently. Their attention is moving forward. They are wondering what can still be created, what can still be understood, and what might become possible if both of you continue evolving rather than returning to old versions of yourselves. But wait. There is a thought they haven't fully expressed yet. They are proud of you. Not because you performed some enormous gesture for their approval. In fact, the opposite may be true. The thing that affected them most was something you did because you needed to do it for yourself. That independence surprised them. And strangely, it brought them closer to understanding what they truly value about you. Your soulmate doesn't want your entire world to revolve around their presence. They are beginning to appreciate the person who has dreams, direction, curiosity, and a future that continues expanding. That is where the futuristic vision becomes impossible for them to ignore. They can picture conversations that haven't happened yet. Places neither of you has seen yet. Goals that currently exist only as possibilities. And somewhere inside that imagined tomorrow, they see two people who no longer need to prove their worth to each other. They simply recognize it. Stay till the final moment, because one more discovery is forming beneath all of this. Your soulmate has realized that their joy is actually carrying a message for them, not just for you. It is telling them to stop waiting for perfect conditions. To become clearer. To become more intentional. To prepare themselves for whatever the next chapter genuinely requires. And now they are considering one action that could finally reflect that change. It may seem small when it happens. Perhaps a different kind of conversation. A sincere acknowledgement. A moment of openness you weren't expecting. But its meaning could be much larger than its appearance. Because this time, they don't want to approach you from confusion. They want to approach the future from clarity. And here is the question that remains. What happens when two people independently choose growth, and then discover their paths are turning toward the same horizon? The answer is closer than it was before. And your soulmate may already be preparing to show you, there is a quiet moment coming when everything your soulmate has been feeling may finally become impossible for them to keep unspoken. Their joy has moved beyond excitement now. It has become recognition, the realization that something you did awakened a possibility they had almost stopped considering. And strangely, the first thing they want to do is not rush toward you. They want to understand themselves. That matters more than it seems. Because they have begun separating genuine feelings from old expectations. They are asking which thoughts belong to the future and which ones belong to a chapter that has already taught them everything it could. And each time they do this, their mind returns to you. Not the old version of you. The person you are becoming now. Hold on to that distinction, because it explains everything. Your soulmate sees someone who is beginning to move with purpose. Someone who can care deeply without abandoning personal direction. Someone who has discovered that waiting for validation is very different from knowing your own value. And the choice you recently made proved that transformation was real. Perhaps nobody applauded it. Perhaps nobody even noticed. But they did. There is something powerful about being seen in the moments when you aren't trying to be impressive. Your soulmate recognized your growth precisely because it wasn't performed for attention. That is where their deep joy came from. But another realization followed. If I enter their next chapter, I cannot bring the same hesitation with me. That thought has been echoing inside them. Stay a little longer, because this is where possibility becomes intention. They have started imagining what honesty would actually look like. Not dramatic promises about a distant tomorrow, but simple truth in the present. Saying what matters when the opportunity appears. Listening instead of assuming. Allowing something meaningful to develop naturally rather than trying to control every outcome. This is different from how they imagined things before. Before, they wanted certainty first. Now they understand that clarity often arrives after someone has the courage to take an authentic step. And you unknowingly taught them that. What if the thing you did was never supposed to produce an immediate result? What if its purpose was to create a ripple? First, it changed you. Then your transformation changed the way your soulmate saw you. And now that new perspective is changing the way they see themselves. That is the sequence they are finally recognizing. But don't leave this thought yet. Because one question remains unanswered. Your soulmate has been imagining the moment when they finally have the opportunity to show you that something inside them has changed too. They don't want that moment to be filled with complicated explanations. They want you to notice the difference naturally. Through consistency. Through presence. Through the way they respond when it trull.